Hello again, and welcome back to the Twizzle Comment App Breakdown series. We've seen a few topics now that let us talk about a defining event or life-changing epiphany, but we haven't seen the essay that lets us just talk about the influential people in our lives. This fourth video will cover that topic number 4. Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? One way to look at this is that you're writing about the person or people that impacted you in a way that influenced your experience with the subject or field you ultimately became interested in. Students always ask about writing about family members. This is perfectly acceptable, but don't make this essay about you being thankful for having a great life. The best essays for this topic will talk about how one or more people made a direct impact that greatly facilitated your ability to find genuine joy in studying your field of interest. You can write about coaches, teachers, counselors, religious figures. You can write about famous people you haven't even met. There are lots of ways to go about writing this topic. The very best essays here will tie together unique personal relationships, the person you are today and the person you hope to be. Let's talk about sample essays first. We always say that it's best to read a college essay that got a student in, but for this topic, you can look to many other much more diverse sources. Writing competition winners, editorials in newspapers, well-written blogs, especially if you're an underclassman and have the time to research. We have a lot of this information organized at mytwizzle.com to start you off. The things to look for here are sample essays that have strong emotional stories that are unique, realizations relevant to your academic or personal development, unique vocabulary structure that shows off your personality. Though there are a lot more, just these 3 writing mechanics allow students to completely individualize their essays. Read sample essays to see how more experienced writers do this to get ideas. Just don't plagiarize. It's debatable how important the research time is. It also depends on your state of mind. If you're panicked and rushed and need to get essays done, then reading 20 sample essays and picking apart their structures will not be the best use of your time. Brainstorming is different. This is important. If you've been following the other videos, you can see why brainstorming allows you to basically write out several different versions of an essay without wasting all of the time to actually do it. For this topic, it's perfectly acceptable to write about 2, 3, or even 10 people. It would depend on how you divide the flow of your message and how the stories work together. There is no set structure. Again, remember that the admissions representatives are trying to figure out what kind of person you are. Let's look at some examples of brainstormings for students who have no idea what they want to study in college, because most students go to their first year as undecided students. In this first essay outline, the person is considering writing the essay with the different categories of people outlined. There is no ranking of importance here, but in this way, a student can mention many people while still mentioning their importance in gaining confidence and awareness of topics. Another way to do this would be by spending more time talking about the individual people. Again, let's take a look at the same student, but let's look at a different way to organize this. Here, we have the same topic, even some of the same content. But by reducing the number of people that are discussed, the student allows for more substance in the essay to be used for analysis of this important person's influence. Since the goal of the essay is to demonstrate unique aspects of your personality, both of these structures would be acceptable and students would have their own personal preference. For this topic, it's important to note that there isn't any strong evidence for a specific field of interest. This is also normal. Since you're usually declaring your major in your 3rd year, there are many students who really don't know yet what they want to do in college. The goal of that type of essay is to avoid any tones of hesitation or ignorance. You might not know your major, but you know what you have been capable of so far and the people that helped you along the way. Write that well. And with that, we'll move on to the writing. As you can see from the brainstorming earlier, it might be a problem if every single sentence in your essay is talking about you and some other person. You might begin a lot of your sentences with we or try some weird, awkward variation of that. Another thing that is universal, regardless of major or school level, is that schools react much more positively to essays that have very broad ranges in grammatical structure and vocabulary use. Let's take an example of this. In third grade, Mrs. Channing was a teacher that I am thankful to have had. We would always spend time as a class having many discussions. We read many books together, and a lot of them are still my favorite. We also submitted writing competitions together as a class. We learned that it was fun to just submit, and winning was not the main point. Though this is grammatically correct, this type of essay would not be best suited for top-tier schools. The reason is that the sentences themselves do not contain much content. Specifically, there is no clear explanation of the kind of impact that these events had on the students. As mentioned above, the redundancy here is very strong. Any reviewer would notice the very limited variation in sentence structure. A different way to write this would be to first change the structure to reflect broader writing knowledge, but keeping a similar word count. In third grade, Mrs. Channing was a teacher that I am thankful to have had. We would always spend time as a class having memorable discussions. Many difficult books became my favorites through her explanations. Preparing class submissions for writing competitions was amazing. Classmates laughing together became the goal, and winning was just a variable. Even though the content is the same, we've added more depth and range. Now, if we made each of these sentences proper length, we'd end up with something like this. In third grade, Mrs. Channing was a teacher that I am thankful to have had. We would always spend time as a class having memorable, sometimes heated discussions guided by her protective encouragement. Explanations she shared clarified the obscurity of many books, many of which I still hold in high regard because of her. Preparing class submissions together was an amazing experience since I'm pretty sure she tricked the entire class into loving extra homework. Classmates laughing and learning together even after school became the goal, and winning was just a variable that existed in our periphery. At this level of writing, it is generally alright for students to take a step back and check for things like excessive boasting or understatement. Each sentence here is clear. They work together to create an image of what type of class Mrs. Channing led. There's a clear sense of gratitude to the approach to learning that Mrs. Channing shared, and most importantly, there is no redundancy. Avoiding redundancy is important because the whole point of this is to show off how well you write. Okay, so that'll do it for this video. Hopefully this helps you understand topic 4 a little more easily and also gives you an idea for how to make your essay unique. Come to mytwizzle.com for help. Join the community. We have things to help you with every stage of your planning, including timers to practice your SATs or ACTs at home. In the next video, we'll do a topic breakdown for number 5. Please remember to like and subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching.